not ready for that, all right? You think you're ready. And you're like, Sydney, I'm ready. No, you're not. You're not ready for that. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Makeup Mystery. My name is Sydney Nicole, and I'm back here again with the one, the only, Marina, Marinara, Marnie. What other nicknames do you have?
Marnie, Marinara, Mina, and Nina.
Yeah.
But those Marnie and Marinara are the those are the ones. And I had a lot of strep throat, so people were like, Marina, streptococcus or tonsil town. I have to get my tonsils out.
No,
so
I'm only calling me tonsil town. All right, Tonsiltina, let's go. We are back for part 2 of the French Revolution. So if you did not watch part 1, go watch it now, because this is not going to make a whole lot of sense if you haven't watched that video. So I'll give you some time to pause, go back to the other video, watch it twice, really get it in that noggin of yours. And then you can come back to this one and learn more, okay? But we are going to... Oh, that was good again. Yes, ma'am. All right. So Louis XVI knew that he had to stay on the good side of the revolutionaries after his failed escape attempt, because they knew he was a traitor. They knew he wasn't about the revolution, and they were like, you know what, Louis, we're kind of sick of your shit now. We're coming for you. So he was like just staying on their good side, agreeing to a lot of the things that they wanted so he wouldn't get his head chopped off or removed or whatever. Louis had a big problem with people breaking into his palace. Like, it happened on the regular during the revolution, so he was trying to like be nice to people so they wouldn't break into his palace. Just saying.
Sure, me too.
The revolutionaries were demanding that Louis release more and more of his power. There's actually a portrait done where like they broke into the palace and they demanded that he wear the revolutionary bonnet. Yeah, and there's a portrait of him just like sitting there in this red bonnet, like so defeated.
It looks like a kid at Christmas who doesn't want to wear.
Truly.
But, like he's like,
Mom, I don't wanna.
Mom, why?
Well, your Aunt Tonsiltina wants it. She worked really hard. All right, she hasn't been the same since the divorce. So you're gonna put it on, damn it. You're gonna like it. In 1791, the National Assembly actually passed a new constitution which stripped away basically all of Louis' powers. So he became basically a figurehead. He wasn't doing much, which he knew was coming because, again, he saw the writing on the wall, and that's why he tried to escape to Austria anyway. But for the radicals in the Jacobin Club, that wasn't even enough. They didn't want the monarchy, period. So they... even the fact that he was there as a figurehead still bothered them. They were like, that's not enough. We need more, okay?
Get him out.
Get him out of there. 3 strikes, your head's gone.
That's the ball game.
A month after this new constitution was made, there was a protest calling for the king's removal altogether. And this was it wasn't like sponsored by the Jacobin Club, but they like encouraged it, you know what I mean? The French government feared that this protest would become an insurrection because a lot of people very angry. So far the revolution's already been violent, so they were kind of fearing that that's where it was going. So they set the military to try to suppress the protest, and it ended with the military shooting into the crowd and killing protesters, which, big yikes.
Not a good look.
This almost validated the Jacobin Club because they're like, look how tyrannical this monarchy is. Like, they're shooting to a crowd of peaceful protesters. They've got to go. This is really bad. So after this massacre, there was way more support for getting rid of the monarchy altogether. As all this unrest was occurring, the aristocrats in other parts of France started to flee because they were scared about what they were seeing. I mean, like, revolutionaries are gaining traction. They now have Louis in the palm of their hand, basically. The National Assembly is like, they're ruling things and they're taking over. So the aristocrats were like, this doesn't look great. So they started fleeing to other parts of Europe. This was a problem though, because other parts of Europe still had a monarchy and they were bringing these like revolutionary ideas to Europe, and the other places in Europe didn't want that because they were like, hey, keep that to yourself. There's a lot of violence. We don't need that shit here, you know? Other countries were kind of pissed at France because they were like, hey, there's a new flood of immigrants. Y'all need to get your stuff under control. What is happening in this country? We can't handle like all these people trying to move out of France and into the rest of Europe right now. So France was worried that the rest of Europe, all the like nations with monarchies, were going to attack them. So they decided to attack first, which is stupid because they're in the middle of a revolution, but go off. In April of 1792, France declared war on Austria and immediately got its ass kicked. But that didn't stop them from pursuing this war.
Sure.
Prussia, Austria's ally, joined the fight, and the Duke of Brunswick sent a letter to France with a threat. And this is our first question. If you get this question right, we will be using the Morphe 9V Vintage Rose palette. She's extra cute. She's fun. She's got BRB, some shimmers and stuff. Okay. Mm-hmm. She's fun. She's got some stuff going on there. And the Colourpop California Love palette. Y'all seen it before. We love to see it.
We do.
More shimmers. But if you get this question wrong, we will be using the LA Colors Berry Kiss palette, which is from Dollar General, I believe. She's got some cute things going on.
Yeah.
You don't sound too convinced there.
I'm one convinced.
Okay. And the Life's a Peach W7 palette with these colors. You've seen them before. Mm-hmm. We're back at it. Get it right and we use the high-end men's makeup. Get it wrong, we use the less recognizable makeup.
Dollar General.
DG. DG represent. Dollar General in the house. I will consider this question right if A, you actually get it right and tell me the answer.
How questions work, yeah.
Or B, I will let you have two answers. If your answer makes me laugh enough. What was the threat that the Duke of Brunswick sent to France?
And Duke of Brunswick, he's Austrian?
He's Prussian,
okay.
But the ally of Austria.
Right, okay. Get this shit under control or we'll come beat your ass. Some historians have said.
Yeah? What have they said? What have they said, Marina?
They've said, y'all some ugly ass hoes over there in France. I don't know what the hell y'all doing. But y'all need Jesus. And we're gonna bring them to you. Along with Meg Thee Stallion's new single, Thought Shit.
There's just kick across the people. X gon' give it to you.
That is what the Duke of Brunswick said.
I'm gonna give it to you. A, because it was funny, but B, your first answer wasn't like too far off.
Okay.
So I'll give it to you.
All
so
right.
today we will be using the high-end makeup because it's my channel and I do what I want. The actual correct answer is that the Duke of Brunswick sent a threat to France saying that if anything happened to the king, if they hurt the king at all, he would burn Paris to the ground. So of course the people of Paris listened and they were like, that's really understandable.
Oh, that's so nice.
No! This pissed them off. And on August 10th, 1792, a mob broke into the palace, all right, after a lot of fighting and a lot of death. Louis escaped to the floor of the National Assembly. So they almost, the National Assembly voted to suspend the monarchy and Louis was no longer a king. So they just took away his king title. A month later in September 22nd to be exact, since I gotta be on my shit, The National Assembly, which is now called the National Convention, officially declared France a republic. So it was no longer a monarchy or a constitutional monarchy or anything else. It was officially a republic with the National Convention being the legislative body and the executive body, the ruling body. Anything pertaining to the old France had to go. Which is like big because you're just throwing out like your entire country's like culture and just being like, you can't have this anymore because that's the old France, you know? Priests were being either deported or jailed just for being priests. Instead of having priests and religion, they instated a new church called the Cult of Reason. So that was the new church of France. That was like this atheistic church that was all about philosophy. So they were jailing the priests or deporting them, then taking the churches and making them destroy their religious artifacts and then turning these churches into temples for the Cult of Reason. Which is a little obsessive when you've had this like Catholic institution for so long and then you're just like, yeet it all out. This was a popular idea in Paris, but not so much in like the more rural areas. Like out in like the country where there's still farmers and there's a more rural population, like people didn't mind having a church and they didn't really want to just yeet the church out like this so aggressively. Like this was very much a like Paris idea. They were imprisoning aristocrats. All the aristocrats who didn't flee to other countries, they were being imprisoned in France. There was also a new revolutionary calendar. So they switched up the dates on you. Yeah. Which it was like, I don't know what about the previous calendar was so bad, you got to get rid of it, but yeah, there was a new revolutionary calendar. So during all this, France is still fighting a war against like a bunch of other people in Europe, Austria, Prussia, etc. So this is what's ridiculous to me, because they were like, we're so afraid that they will attack us and we're going to attack first. But like now they're republics, so they became a new republic in the middle of this war, and they have the finance in it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but go off. They were losing this war. Big time. I mean, yeah. So those who were running the country were like leaving their posts in the National Convention to go help on the war front so that they couldn't lose. But this meant that Paris was left to their own devices, basically. Mobs started breaking into the prisons where there were clergy and aristocrats being held and were murdering them. So that was a thing. It said that over like 1,600 people died from these mobs breaking into prison. So there was this general fear that with housing all the clergy and the aristocrats in one place, i.e. prison, that they would soon start to revolt or, you know, fight back or blah, 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 which I'm sure in some aspects were happening, but for the most part was kind of just like panicking and fear. So then they started breaking into the prisons and just killing the aristocrats, which is like, cool, great.
You hate to see it.
Louis was put on trial for treason. And of course, he was found guilty because he was the freaking king of France. So of course they're going to say he was treasonous against the Republic. Yeah. Because that's how that works. He was given the sentence of death by guillotine. So Louis' sentencing was held by a vote, and the margin between him living and dying was notoriously small. So this is our second question. Okay. This is going to determine if we use lashes or mascara. So again, I'll show you the options. If you get this right, we'll use the Morphe's DTLA Downtown LA lashes. These feel very you. If you get this wrong, we will use the Maybelline Great Lash Mascara. Okay. Which is, you know, fine, but it's not lashes. Our question was, how big was the margin? Okay. A, 1 vote. B, 2 votes. C, 3 votes.
I feel like for the drama, I gotta say 1.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Very positive?
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah! The vote was 361 to 360, determining that.
That's why. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, there was a lot of people.
So
in the National
many
Assembly.
people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. But yeah, so that was the vote for him being killed by the guillotine. So on January 23rd, 1793, Louis was killed, baby, murked, done for, heads are rolling. And Marie Antoinette sat in her cell and knew that her time was next. So it was said that like after they killed Louis, they shot off like cannons or whatever to like let people know, and she could hear that from her cell. So she knew that he was done for, that he was murked, and she was coming next. There was actually a lot of counter-revolutionary uprising. Not everyone was for the revolution. Again, people out in the rural parts of France were like, hey, we actually kind of like religion, like we didn't mind the king, and like they were still struggling out there. They weren't struggling as much as like couldn't afford bread and stuff, but they were like, hey, things aren't that much better, and you're spending all your time beheading the king and doing these things instead of like making life better for us. So there was a lot of counter-revolutionary uprisings at this time. We're gonna fast forward to May of 1793. Okay. So during this time, there were moderates and there were radicals, and they fought about everything and how everything should move forward. By May, radicals had kicked out almost all the moderates in the National Convention, and the Jacobin Club had full reign of the government. So before this point, you know, there was violence, there was a lot going on, but the moderates kind of kept things in check for a while. They were like, hey, like for a while they wanted to work with the king, and then after the king was gone, they were like, oh, well, we still want to like not descend into too much badness. Like we wanted to kind of feel like the monarchy still, and like Jacobin Club was like, nah. This is where we move on to the part of the revolution that everyone knows as the Reign of Terror. So once the Jacobins had full reign, it was like, honestly, you could be executed for anything. You were sent to the guillotine if you criticize the Jacobin Club or the New Republic or anything. You were sent to the guillotine if you used, like, if you called someone like Monsieur or whatever, because that's the old France, so anything pertaining to the old France, you were sent to the guillotine. You were sent to the guillotine if you complained about, you know, still struggling or the price of bread or whatever. Like if you still complained about your status, you were sent to the guillotine. So basically, you were sent to the guillotine for almost anything. So everyone was like looking over their shoulders and really scared, because now we're back to this oppressive government that is like keeping an eye out for Selena. The radicals feared that people were plotting against France and trying to bring France down. So they established the Committee of Public Safety. And this was a small group that like determined what you went to the guillotine for. So this group was like responsible for a lot of deaths, because like I said, you got sent to the guillotine for like literally almost anything. There were spies and secret police everywhere, and thousands of people were accused of treason. In fact, it's estimated that around 40,000 people were killed for suspected treason. So just to put this in perspective,
okay,
you've been to Annapolis, right?
Yeah,
okay. The town of Annapolis, Maryland is 39,300.
Oh no.
So like, think about wiping out the entire town of Annapolis, Maryland.
Yikes.
During the Reign of Terror. During this Reign of Terror, Marie Antoinette was finally tried for treason and convicted, and she was killed on October 16th, 1793. So during Libra season.
Damn.
Whoops. The executions continued into the following year, with many historians saying that the execution of Robespierre being the official end of the revolution. So I didn't talk about Robespierre much here. You can do your own research and find out about him. Basically, he was like one of the biggest leaders of the Jacobin, and he was someone who like really initiated the Reign of Terror, because he was just very paranoid. We're gonna kill everyone. So how he ended up dying is like he went to the National Convention and he was like, hey, I think some of you are traitors. I'm gonna send you to the guillotine. And they were like, how about we just vote to send you to the guillotine? So they voted to send him to the guillotine, and he ended up dying in the same way that he condemned other people to die.
That's like the roughest part of like when you get to the end of all of this, and then the people who started it like die, for the same reasons, because of how quickly like things turn. And
we made it. We made it. Woo! This is the end. I'm glad we got through part 2. I am proud of you for getting both answers correct this time.
Me as well.
Redemption.
I mean, yeah, I feel like I got like, I feel like I got the right energy of the first question. Like it was a lot of history.
It's a lot.
It was really fun.
A lot at you. Guess what? There's even more.
There's so much that there's not there. So
thank you for stopping by. All the makeup that I use on my face and Marina's face is listed down below in that description. I also put my research down there too, so you could take a look, find out some more information for yourself, because like I said, I had to cut out a lot for the sake of condensing this down to 2 videos, okay? Like, subscribe, hit that bell in the corner to be notified when videos come out, so you can see all the new changes, because we got some fun stuff coming your way, okay? Okay. But that's it for now, y'all. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, don't make up your history.